y'all, and welcome to the Healthy by Heather Brown podcast, where I encourage you in healthy mind, body, and spirit through my Sunday reset. Let's get into it. Hello, girl gang, and welcome back to another episode of Healthy by Heather Brown. Y'all, today we get to pick Corey Dunn's brain. If you're not following her on Instagram already or her podcast, make sure that you jump over. She's at For Nutrients' Sake on Instagram, and she's the co-host of Modern Ancestral Mamas podcast. So what she likes to do is share with you real food that's kid approved and nourishing versions of family favorite recipes. And so when I asked you guys what all you wanted me to cover in this season of the podcast, all about mind, body, and spirit health for our kids and really pouring into this upcoming generation, you guys had all the food questions. And I was like, dang, who better to ask than Casey? So with all that said, Casey, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Heather. It'll be fun.
Absolutely. So you have 4 kids, is that right?
I do. Yep.
Okay. What are their ages and how long have you been married? And tell us like a little bit about how you got started with your podcast. I think that people would love to hear that.
Okay. So I have been married for 13 years, 13 and a half. My oldest is 12. My oldest is a boy, and then I have 3 girls. So there are 11, 6, and 4.
I'm just curious, how did you get your start, I guess, in your podcast, and how did being a mom like lend itself to, did you see your Instagram growing the way that it did? I just always think people's background stories, that is so interesting.
So I had, so my daughters, who's my second born, had really terrible eczema when she was an infant. So it started around 6 months, which is, so just when we started food, essentially. And so she had that really horrible eczema up until about a year old when thankfully, my mother stepped in and said, hey, I think that, what you're doing, because I was just doing what the doctors were telling me. And she was like, I think that maybe you should try cutting out gluten. So we cut gluten out of her diet, and her body cleared up, her skin cleared up within a week.
Wow.
So I was like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a total mind-blowing experience for me because, I had grown up in a really real food home as much as you could have been in the 80s and 90s. And like my mom did like homeopathy and we did all of the super crunchy things before super crunchy things were a thing to do. So I had exposure to that. But when I was an adult and my husband didn't grow up in a crunchy house, so it was just easier for us to just do the standard American thing. And so then when we had this experience with my daughter, it just totally blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, food really does have just a massive impact on our health. And I guess up until that point, I kind of seen it as food was impacting weight, but other than that, it wasn't really a thing. But that just really opened my mind to, wow, food and, lifestyle are just the total bedrock of our health in general. Yeah. So then fast forward, and this is funny, I haven't told this story on a podcast yet, but I kind of not duped, that's the wrong word. We had like no money. Okay. We were trying to buy a house, and a friend of mine from college said, hey, I'm doing this, MLM thing. And it ended up being Beachbody coaching.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, cool, I'll dive into that. Because it was, kind of went with my whole healthy eating thing. And I was like, I need to get myself doing more workouts because it's hard to do that when you have 2 little kids. And I was working part-time. So anyway, so I started doing that, and I started a Instagram account for that because I didn't want to have my kids on a public Instagram account. So that's actually how it started very, very early. That was probably about 7 years ago. And then, and it was like very, very small for a while. And then I only did the Beachbody thing for about, I don't know, a year maybe, until I was like, this really doesn't actually align with what I think, with what I believe. And I don't really actually like the whole MLM business model, which, if that works for you, awesome. It was not working for us.
Sure.
And I had another baby. So all of that. And then my Instagram just kind of morphed into what I was doing for my family food wise and what I was learning along the way, because at that point I had kind of shifted into a kind of Weston A style diet. And
wait. Say that again. You've shifted into a what?
It's called the Weston A. Price Foundation.
Have not heard of that.
Okay. Weston A. Price. So, okay. We'll do a quick on that one.
Okay.
The Weston A. Price Foundation is a reflection of the work done by Dr. Weston A. Price. He was a dentist in the 20s and 30s, who noticed that his patients' teeth were all basically rotting out of their mouths, and that he noticed there was a connection between the teeth and the rest of the body. And he said, but I see like these photographs of people in sort of tribal groups, in Africa or in other places I can't even think right now. But so he went and traveled around the world with his wife in the early 30s and tried to document what the people groups were eating back then and how their teeth and then the rest of their health were connected to what they were eating. So then in the 80s, Sally Fallon Morell discovered his work, which is a book. His work is it's a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. And so Sally picks up his book randomly and then reads it and gets super inspired. She writes the book Nourishing Traditions and then starts the Weston A. Price Foundation to kind of further his work and sort of help people to use the principles that he discovered in their own lives and in like a modern context. So
could you summarize maybe what his major findings were in like 30 seconds or so? Okay.
So they have, I think it's 11 principles. So you could go and like read all of them.
I'll link them in the show notes, y'all.
Yeah, the website is westonaprice.org, I believe.
Okay.
So anyway, so the main gist of it is that all these people groups that he went and visited, I can't remember how many there were, but they were in all different parts of the world. And he discovered, one thing that's interesting is that he hoped to discover a fully plant-based group of people.
Oh.
And he didn't. He didn't find anybody that was fully plant-based.
No, couldn't find
none. Yes.
Wow.
And
interesting.
So he discovered that one of the main things that these people groups have in common is that they were all eating a lot of animal-based, maybe not a lot, but okay, so I'm going to say this. It differs from area to area because of the access that those people would have to different foods, right? So like the people in Alaska and stuff were eating like seal blubber and like that kind of thing. Didn't have hardly any vegetables or fruit or anything like that because obviously that's not growing there. So, and then, in a tropical area, it would be different. But so then he found that they all consumed some form of animal-based food. So that could be like cheese and milk and stuff, or it could be meat, So some sort of animal-based food.
Sure.
They were eating, obviously, unprocessed food or they were eating processed food in a way that is like sourdough is a processed food, or sauerkraut or kefir or cheese. These are all actually processed foods. They're just not ultra processed foods.
Okay.
They were eating whatever was local to them, obviously. And I mean, you can go on and on. So they treated their grains and legumes in a way that would inhibit the anti-nutrients and give the foods as much bioavailable nutrients as possible. So that means like soaking and sprouting and souring.
Okay.
They were eating fermented foods like kefir, yogurt, kombucha, those
That's
sorts
what I'm
of
drinking
things.
right now. Kombucha.
Yeah, there you go. And let me think if I can think of any ones. Oh, they also all had diets that were not low in fat.
Okay.
So they were eating natural occurring fats. All of them were eating naturally occurring fats. And so, so there's like a ton of things you could go read about this. That's like a super fast overview, and I've probably missed something.
No, you were great. That was a good snippet to be like, now I'm tracking with what you're saying. Good.
Yeah. Okay. I don't even know where we were. So
you had learned about this methodology, basically.
So I found out I learned about this through the Nourishing Traditions cookbook and sort of switched my family all over to that in a sort of like slow, methodical way. Like I wasn't trying to just dive right in and overwhelm myself, but I was trying to set myself up for success there. And especially since I literally just had another baby. And then I kind of went, wow, like not a lot of people know about this. And it kind of just poured out. I don't know. It was just like I feel like I have to share this. It probably had something to do with too that I was a stay-at-home mom and I was maybe a little bit not bored is not obviously because it's not a boredom thing. Moms are not bored.
That like mental stimulation where it was like
I needed something that was mine.
Totally.
Yeah, I needed something to do that was mine. And I had experienced such a huge shift in health for my family with all of these changes that we had made to our diet. And I just desperately wanted other people to feel healthy and to have healthy kids. And I still feel that way. Like I don't currently, like I don't really make any money off of what I do. I don't really make any money off the podcast or anything like that. I literally am just out here sharing because I just feel so strongly that I want people to have healthy, particularly healthy children. And I want, I think that there's so much that we can do to make this easy on ourselves, but it feels so overwhelming if you're not used to it.
Yes, 100%. And a lot of the questions that people submitted to this podcast episode about kids' health, it does just seem like sheer overwhelm. And so one of my girlfriends actually even just said to me, she has I think a 14-year-old daughter. And she even said to her not too long ago, she said, Mom, I just wish that you would have taught me how to eat healthy because now I just feel like I don't even know where to start. So it's like the work that you're doing and, what we're putting out there, it literally can change lives because what I want is for mamas to hear this and to be like, okay, I can't go all in, but what little, like tiny tweaks could they start to make? So do you mind even sharing a little bit about, you said it made a lot of changes in your family from a health perspective. We heard about the eczema. I guess what other health changes did you see? And then what did your slow tweaks towards this way of eating look like?
Yeah. Okay. So, I'll start off with my son was to some degree lactose intolerant. He wasn't ever like puking, but it was always if he had too much cheese or milk or ice cream or something, he would go to bed with like, oh, Mom, my stomach really hurts. So we switched from conventional dairy, organic dairy that was pasteurized. We switched to raw milk and he can now drink raw milk and eat, raw dairy like that almost. He has no problems with it. None.
Wow. Why do you think it is?
Well, so raw milk has built-in enzymes to help you digest the proteins in it. So, and the sugars and everything. So when you pasteurize milk, it kills those enzymes off. So you're drinking something that is just, there's nothing in it to help you digest it. So, that's kind of the simple answer to that.
Not to mention, I have not tried raw milk yet, but it's on my list of things that I want to try. It's a goal for this year. So I'm like, y'all can hold me to it. My podcast list.
It's amazing.
Me.
Yeah.
But when I heard you, the first time that I found Corey was actually on Alex Clark's podcast. And she was talking about how, I think you said that your kids had to have regular milk for some reason when you were traveling recently. Yeah. And they were like, ew, this is disgusting.
I know. They're so bougie about it.
Got those
it's kind of annoying at this point, actually. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, I can't always go drive to the farm. Yeah. Yeah. They're bougie about it. It is, but it is a huge difference. Like if you did a side-by-side taste comparison, there's no comparison. Even if you can get the a local milk that is still pasteurized, it's still going to be not the same. It's just not.
Yeah. Interesting. And you guys, if you're hearing this and you're like, I don't even know where I would go to get raw milk, I can tell you if you're a local Birmingham area listener, Archetype Health, Dr. John Palmer that I go to that I've shared with you guys as my naturopath and chiropractor, he actually has milk delivered to his office that you can pick up and get on subscription for. And if you're not local, then you can certainly Google and look for local dairy farms that might be close to you to find a good option and or other local farmers that you can connect with. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so
I didn't interrupt you.
No. That's great. I love that. So different states have different laws about it, right? And obviously out of the country, other countries have their own laws. Most people will say, oh, well, raw milk's illegal in my state, and there are really only, I think, 2 states at this point that raw milk is actually illegal in.
Okay.
Otherwise, there are like loopholes and workarounds. So like I know for Virginia, you can do what's called a herd share, where you're essentially buying part of the cow. And then you are then legally, you own that cow. And it's legal for you to drink raw milk or to get raw milk from your own cow.
Oh, interesting.
So then it's like a workaround, right? Other states like Maryland, I used to live in Maryland. And so in that state, it is legal to sell it as pet milk, quote, quote, pet milk that is, quote, again, not for human consumption. So that if they sell it like that, then they've labeled it as that way. And it's, that kind of gives them a loophole. There are other states like South Carolina and Pennsylvania where you can just, and California is like this too, you can just go to the store and buy it. So I don't know what the Alabama laws are, but
this is such a random and probably dumb question to you, but I'm just going to ask it.
Yeah.
Why would it be that raw milk is quote unquote illegal, or you have to do these workarounds? Like,
that's a super good question, actually.
Okay.
So you got to go like back in history. Okay. Back in like the turn of the century, Industrial Revolution era, where people were kind of all mass moving into cities. There was what is called the swill milk scandal. And what happened there was they had milk dairies out in the country, but there was no refrigeration, right? So they were trying to cart the milk into the cities to give to people. But by the time it got there, it was spoiled because it was too hot. So then they tried to put dairies in cities, like in a factory, essentially. So they had cows in factories and they were eating swill, which is essentially like the leftovers from making beer. So they were feeding the cows this swill and the cows were getting very sick because it's not their natural diet. And they were cooped up and they were like in these really dirty barns and stuff. So the milk was not safe to drink because that is important with raw milk, is that you are getting them from healthy cows and clean dairies and clean milking practices and all of this. Like that actually really is important. And I don't want to like defame any regular milk producers, but they don't have the same, like if they have milking practices that are not super duper duper clean, it's okay because the milk is getting cooked. So all the stuff is getting cooked out of it. With raw milk, you don't have that luxury,
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it has to be super clean from the get-go. And that's why, people who drink raw milk say you should go to the dairy if you can, or call the farmer and find out what their practices are, just so that you're super clear and you're super comfortable. Because like I personally would never tell somebody you should drink raw milk if they're uncomfortable with it. Like I think you have to be comfortable because, stress is just as bad as all the other things. So
true.
So anyway, historically, people did get sick from it. And a senator, congressperson, whatever, from New York, I think, passed a bill making raw milk illegal. And so then it kind of snowballed from there to the point where it was completely illegal, I think, in the entire country. And then in the, I think it was 80s, 90s time, people started advocating for raw milk and for it to become legal. And people are still doing that. People are still showing up at their courthouses and their house places of government, their state places of government, and telling them, we want access to this. So yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, that's good background info to know. And I didn't mean to sidetrack you you were telling us though about like, that was one of the changes that you saw for your son. And then you saw the eczema change with gluten-free. Were there any other big changes y'all saw in your family?
Yeah. So with the gluten-free thing, like my daughter did this gluten-free. She was gluten-free from about a year old up until about, I think she was about 9. No, she turned 10. And so she had done that for about 9 years. And within that time frame, we had started trying to do sourdough ancient grains. So wheat, but a sourdough version, and like an einkorn or a kamut or a spelt or something like that, just to see if she had any change to her gut. And eventually she decided, you know what? I'm going to try, I'm not conventional, but I'm going to try wheat that hasn't been soured, that hasn't been treated in this way, just to see. So my daughter's now 11. She can eat wheat of any sort and have no problem at all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I have seen so much healing from this just within the 6 people in my family. Like, it's unbelievable to me how much you can do. I'm not one of those people who's going to tell you like my kids are perfect. Like, they never get sick. They have no focus issues. They go to sleep really easily. None of that is true. I will say my kids get sick less often, I think, than some of their friends, but that's a knock on wood situation. I feel like,
Sure. Sure.
Asking for karma there.
Yeah. Are there any breads that are, I guess, like on the grocery shelves that you feel confident you could say to people, you could buy this brand and it would be gluten-free and work out probably well for you? Obviously, you would say to make your own sourdough and all those kind of things. But if you're like looking to just slightly pivot and you
so I think I think you have to decide what's important to you. Like if gluten-free is important to you, then I don't actually have a good recommendation because I haven't done gluten-free bread in such a long time that I don't actually know what's on the shelf anymore. But I think something that to be aware of is that gluten-free products are often full of extra ingredients. They're not just rice or, because if you buy a simple loaf of bread, it's a sourdough loaf of bread or just like a really simple loaf of bread that doesn't have 15 ingredients, you're going to have 3 ingredients. You're going to have water, salt, and flour or wheat. And that's going to be your ideal situation because that's going to be really recognizable foods to your body. The problem with gluten-free, and this is almost across the board, is that these foods are so processed because they're trying to mimic gluten. So this is something that I started recognizing about 5 years into this gluten-free thing with my daughter is that, first of all, a lot of times they don't taste good, right? They just don't hit that spot. Yeah. And then they also just have all these other really processed ingredients that I was not confident were actually really good for her or any of us. And then, so gluten-free we really don't do much that's gluten-free anymore, except for things that are naturally gluten-free, obviously. But again, there are people that have to do it for celiac reasons or whatever. So I think that, if that's your thing, you really are going to have to kind of decide what your boundaries are around food. Yeah. And just kind of say, these are my non-negotiables. These are where I'm willing to kind of make, not be so strict about it. So anyway, okay. So back to the bread. I think that if you're okay with gluten, if your body handles that okay, I think the pretty much only one that I've seen in most grocery stores. So, you can find it in Target, you can find it at Walmart, you can find it at Publix. I don't know what you guys have.
Yeah, we have.
Okay. So it's the Dave's Killer bread. That's the green packaging. And the reason I say that is because that's the only one that doesn't have the seed oils in it. Okay. The other ones do. So, well, I wish they didn't. Like, come on.
No, I know. I wish I didn't either. And you guys have heard me talk about this on the podcast before about seed oil. So those are something you definitely want to avoid if possible, just because it increases inflammation in your body. And there's just a host of other issues and I'll link back to another podcast episode where maybe we've talked about that a little bit more just for context. One thing you guys commonly ask me is how to make faith a part of your family's day-to-day life. And let me tell you, the Beginner's Bible and their line of books and activity books have been a total game changer for us. We've been reading for almost a decade now. The Beginner's Bible has been in churches and homes building a foundation of faith for little ones for over 35 years. The Bible is colorful, beautifully illustrated, and contains 94 Old and New Testament stories, bringing the Bible to life in a way kids actually understand and enjoy. Along with the Bible, they also offer daily devotionals, activity books, early reader books, and more. Whether it's during their 10 minutes of homework reading time or bedtime snuggles, it is our go-to for faith-filled reading. So if you're ready to make this a part of your family's daily routine, check out the Beginner's Bible full line on Amazon, linked in my show notes. They also have their holiday gift guide live if you need ideas for Christmas. Then when you were starting to be like, okay, maybe my mom did know a little bit more than what I gave her credit for about, like this crunchy lifestyle and all this stuff. How did you feed your kids in the beginning, and what little changes did you start making? Because how old were they at that point when you were changing?
Well, I mean, they were pretty young to begin with, because my oldest was, let me think, at that point I only had two. My youngest was about a year old and my oldest was about 2.5.
Okay. But you were doing it with toddlers though, so that's good context for people to hear. Okay.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I will completely, admit it is easier to start your kids younger. But I will also say that my kids are not easy when it comes to food. Like, I know a lot of people who are like, I started them young and now they're perfect. I don't know if these people are lying or they just are like, like really do have perfect kids. If they do, that's wonderful. I'm happy for them, but I don't. So like my kids, I sent my kids are homeschooled now, but when my kids were my oldest two were in kindergarten. At first grade, they went to a private school and they had all this outside influence with food. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this whole little like bubble that I had created at my house where I could control everything was now completely popped. And I couldn't control if they swapped lunches. I couldn't control, if they went to a birthday party. I do remember one time I was like, I'm gonna make them banana ice cream, that's like frozen bananas you just like blitz up and it makes ice cream. I was like, I'm going to make them banana ice cream so they can bring it to the birthday party and they can eat that and then they'll be fine. And it was just like even at that age, because they were probably about 4, maybe 4 and 6 at that point. And it was still like it wasn't pleasant. Like it was, I could tell that they were feeling really left out. They were feeling really, like weird.
Yeah.
With their friends. And I, at that point, recognized, okay, what we're doing is not creating a good environment for my kids. So what I ended up doing at that point in our lives is saying, okay, I'm going to control what I'm doing at home, and obviously I packed their lunches and stuff for school, but if they didn't eat it, it was like, okay, if they switched lunches, then they switched lunches.
Yeah.
And so then I tried to be much more kind of level-headed about it and just kind of not try and be extra controlling and uptight, which is hard for me. Lately, honestly, it's just like my personality is very uptight, but I tried to be a little bit more gracious with them and with myself at that point. And I actually think it's worked out fairly well at this point. So anyway, all that to say is like, yes, I started my kids really young, but it didn't go like super smoothly, as I know a lot of other people have had the experience with their kids. It's like, my kids have still had Kraft mac and cheese, Oreos, like these things. Not that we have them at home, but I know they have had them. Yes. And I'm okay with it.
Well, I really just want to applaud you for being vulnerable, because I think sometimes like we can look at accounts like yours and be like, oh man, they're like perfect and they figured it all out. So I really appreciate you just like being vulnerable and open and honest. And I mean, I'll tell y'all that my kids do eat mac and cheese and they do eat Oreos sometimes and all those kind of things as well. But I really feel like, and I don't know if you felt this the same way, but I'm even just trying to do like little changes. Like if I know they love the Kraft macaroni and cheese, like if we're at someone's house and they're serving that, great, we're going to eat it, whatever. But at home,
100%.
I'm trying to be like, okay, well, can I just do even like the Annie's organics in the beginning? And
for
now,
sure.
Like, just those little bitty shifts. And for us, we're really working actively. And I feel like it's one of those things where we set this goal and then we have to keep realigning, Eric and I both, about being like, yes, they can have treats. Yes, they can have sugar, but it's getting out of control because now they're getting a treat at school. But then we went and got a haircut after, and now they got another treat, but now they want a treat after dinner. So it's like even just those tiny little things that you can control, I feel like are so helpful. And even just communicating with your spouse and getting back on the same page and being like, hey, babe, just want to let you know before we do dinner tonight, the boys have already had a popsicle because we went to this popsicle, kids kickoff party. And like, let's just make sure there's not another treat tonight. And also, y'all, like 70% of your grocery store has sugar in the food. Like it's like, it's mac and cheese, it's ketchup, it's mayonnaise, it's salad dressing. It all has sugar in it. So by the time that your kids eat the sugar on top of the sugar they've already had, it is astounding how it all compounds. It's really wild.
Yeah, I feel like that about a lot of things, actually, not just sugar. Like it happens with soy. because soy is in so many things that you would have no idea that it's in unless you're like actively reading ingredient labels. It happens with the seed oils. It happens with all these things. So I try and actually be really open with my audience on my platform and kind of talk about when I'm struggling with these things. So like last Easter, my mom's church had an Easter egg hunt at the lighthouse, and it was so beautiful. And they feed everybody lunches like after church, and then you go there and it's a picnic lunch and they feed everybody. And then the kids collect Easter eggs and they have all this candy in them. So I had a bit of a meltdown, truthfully, on the way home. And in the car, I think I was actually driving, and I'm like ranting at my husband, and my poor children can hear me, which I was not a stellar parenting move. But then I posted about it on Instagram, because here's the thing, like I try and control what's in my house and I try and let go of the stuff that's outside of it. But there is a lot of times where you're like, okay, well, they've just had, yesterday they had a birthday party. Today they're going to this thing at church where they're serving them chips and juice boxes and candy. And it's not even like chocolate. Like sometimes I can just be like, okay, well, it's chocolate. Like it's at least less junky, even though it's still chunky chocolate. But it's like it's like the gummies with all of the dyes, and I don't even know. And so I was just like, I can't take it. It's driving me nuts. So God bless my husband, because he's so patient with me about it. But, I think that it can get so overwhelming when you have just time after time after time after time. And I actually get a little sad about it, because sometimes I feel like if they're getting all of this stuff at, our homeschool co-op or at the haircut place where they get a lollipop or they, all the things, then I can't also make treats at home. And I love making treats at home. I love making ice cream. I love making cookies. I love baking. And so does my daughter. And so I'm always like, you know what? I have gotten to the point this is just recently within the past couple of years, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, you know what? If we feel like baking, if I do, or if my daughter does, we're just going to do it.
That's awesome.
And try not to get obsessed with all the other things that are happening in the world, with regards to food. Yeah. And just kind of enjoy the process, because there's so much beauty in baking together or in sharing, a homemade thing.
I just want to reaffirm that, because that is so much what we talk about here at Healthy by Heather Brown is like, yes, you can eat perfectly and you can go to the gym and you can go to church and you can do all the things to check the box and do it right. But ultimately, like if you're like, I'm going to bake the cookies and blow out, the gluten and the sugar and all the things, but it ultimately was a bonding experience with your child, then y'all bake the cookies. Like you have to live your life. You want to live a life that is, like my old website, it was called My Life Well Loved. You want to live a life that is well loved and full from all aspects of, relational health and those kind of things too. I cannot believe how quickly time is flying. So I do want to quickly rapid fire with you. No, I'm like, I love it. So thank you for sharing. But I do have several questions that were submitted from some of our listeners that I'd love to rapid fire with you a little bit. Okay. And if you can, be like, hey, I need extra time on this one. Great, do it. We want your wisdom. So the first one is from Rayanne, and she said, I would just love to hear a little bit more from her about her kids' diet in general, day to day, and talking positively about nutrition. How does that happen in her home?
Okay, that's two things. Day to day, breakfast is usually eggs or yogurt or sausage, sometimes muffins or pancakes or something like that, depending on how ambitious I'm feeling. Lunch is generally leftovers, or I'll make a big batch of what I call full meal soup, which would be like any soup that has basically a full meal's worth of all the things in it. So I don't have to do anything else. Yeah. And again, we homeschool, so we're home and I'm not having to pack anything except on the days that we go for our homeschool co-op. Dinner then is usually, I don't know, some sort of protein and some sort of vegetable. And I don't know, that's probably it. And then, that's it. Okay. And then.
Oh, when you were sending your kids to school, what did you typically pack in their lunch boxes?
Oh my gosh, this was a really long time ago. I don't really even remember. I will say that my oldest, my son, is super adverse to any cold meat.
Okay.
So he will not eat cold meat in a lunchbox. It's annoying. And he knows that I'm annoyed by it. So even if he heard this, he wouldn't be offended. So I just let him pack it at this point. But it's very difficult for me to pack him anything that has significant amounts of protein because of that. But my daughters are totally fine with it. Like I'll pack them meat sticks or I'll pack them. I even tried one time to pack my son bacon because he loves bacon.
Yeah.
And he literally would not eat it. I was like, what is that?
What is wrong with you?
I was so frustrated. Anyway, I gave up on it at this point. I don't remember. It's fruit, vegetables. Yeah. They went to a school where they could have nuts. So I would oftentimes pack the nuts, sometimes a sandwich or a muffin. It just, regular things. That's the thing is I will just make it's basically regular food. Like whatever you want to make, I just use real food ingredients.
Love it. So, and then positive talk around nutrition and health. How do you do that with your kids?
Yeah. So I think that honesty and truthfulness is really important there. And I think that instead of labeling things negatively, we label them as what they truly are. So we say like, well, this has food dyes in it. This doesn't fit within our families. Our family has decided we don't do food dyes. Because this is something that my husband and I have sat down and talked about and decided like this is our line. So this doesn't fit within our family's food values. And so instead we're going to do this one. I don't know. Does that answer that question? So trying to be more precise about it, I think is important too, especially you can scale it to whatever age they are at. But, with an older kid, you can really say, okay, well, this is steak. It is, you can be really honest, like this comes from a cow. We're really thankful for the sacrifice of this cow. We're really thankful to the farmers who raised it properly. And, it's a wonderful source of protein. It's a good source of fats. And, to make this a full meal, we also need to add a baked potato. Like it's pretty simple. You could also do, go with kids, or little ones, you can be like, this is steak. We'll just use the same example. It has fat and protein in it. Those things help us build muscles. It helps us absorb vitamins and minerals. It helps us to feel full and satiated. Not satiated. You don't want to say that to a little kid, but it helps us feel full and it makes our muscles strong. Just that kind of language.
Yes.
And just be really truthful about it. Don't necessarily, I think the word poison when it comes to food is really hyperbolistic and something I try not to, although I definitely slip with my kids. I try not to use it very often because I think it's one of those words that you hear it and you gloss over. So if you can be more specific, like this is red dye number 40 or whatever, it messes with our brains. It makes it so that we can't control our bodies really well. It makes us not think very clearly or it makes us not sleep very well. Whatever those things are.
Yeah.
I think that's, yeah.
And then this is not one of their questions, but I've saw it several places. Anyway, I'm not going to go off the weeds, but several people have been like, my child is obese. Like on the growth chart, it shows that they're obese. Like my doctor has mentioned that we need to work on this. And, that brings in now they're saying, Mom, so-and-so called me fat. What do you say to that mom? It literally makes me want to cry thinking
That's
about
heartbreaking.
It is. So
yeah.
Give her some tangible tools where she can talk about it with her kids in a positive way, and help encourage them maybe.
Okay, this is not something I have any experience with aside from, kind of feeling because I grew up in that heroin chic era, as a teenager in the early 2000s. And I was never that skinny. And it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to feel, like you don't fit.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable.
I defer on that one.
I do because I just don't have any experience and I just feel like I can't really speak to it.
That's okay. That's okay.
Knowledge.
No worries at all. So next question is, what are healthier snacks for picky eaters?
Okay. Well, there's actually, you told me these are rapid fire questions. These are not. No. Okay. So if you have a picky eater, I would assume that means that by the time they're getting to the dinner table or something, that they're not interested in eating what is served. And part of that could be that they're not coming to the table hungry, and you should stop giving them snacks.
That's good.
I know that doesn't sound nice, because if your kid comes to you and says, Mom, I'm hungry, then you want to just give them something. But if they are not coming to the dinner table actually hungry, like haven't eaten in probably 2 or 3 hours hungry, they're probably not going to eat what's being served, or they'll just eat the carbs because that's the tastiest bit for kids. Actually, for adults too, who doesn't love that stuff? But I love it. I think that if your kid is actually really hungry, like we went to the zoo the other day, and we went to the zoo in Florida, and it was hot, and we walked around for hours, and my kids were just like, oh, I'm so hungry at like 3:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So I pulled out some snacks that I had brought with us. But I think if you're exerting extra energy, which is what I mean by that story, like if you know that your kids have been exerting extra energy and they really can't make it until dinner time, dinner time is more than an hour and a half away, then something like that's a heavy on, well, really, if you could balance the macros, that'd be excellent. But my kids will snack on, if it's something where I'm just like, I don't have time to prepare you something, just go grab it. My kids will snack on butter.
Okay.
They'll snack on cheese.
I loved butter as a kid, which I think is so funny. Now I would never open the fridge and just grab butter and eat it. But I remember as a kid, like sneaking it off the butter plate for the bread from my 100% mom's table.
It's so good for them because it builds their brain. And I think that especially little kids will know that. Like they know intuitively that they need the extra stuff in the butter, especially if you're getting like the really good
quality butter
or something that has all the vitamins and stuff in it. Yeah.
Okay. So I will rapid fire this myself too. And you like chime in if you disagree with any of my snacks or what have you. But we love doing raisins or craisins or grapes or celery with ranch for my son, or carrots. We love those yo bars that you can get on Amazon. I think they're called Bearded Brothers. There's like one of my sons loves pistachios and the other one loves walnuts. So just finding the nuts that they like. And then also one of my kids loves those Chomps beef sticks. They love bananas with peanut butter. They love those Flav City. I've shared this with y'all before, like the protein shake. It's like 1 scoop for your kids. You don't even need a blender. You can add water or whatever kind of milk you want. Just shake it up and they can drink it. They also love like those drinkable smoothies. So a lot of times if we're on the go, but I'm like, but they want a snack and I don't want to just get them candy or chips at the store, then we'll stop in and get like one of the Chobani like yogurt drinks or something along those lines. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah. I think as long as you're trying to, balance your macros where you've got a protein and a fat and a carb, because that's what'll be the most sustaining.
True.
Because the carb will give you quick energy, and then the protein and that will give you the sustained energy, and then the fat is going to give you the satiating factor. So you're not, hungry 30 minutes later.
Good call. Okay. Then she said, I would love to hear more about where she thinks is the most important place to start in improving your kids' nutrition. So I guess just like
step one.
Yeah.
Step one is to sit down with your husband or your partner, if you have one, and figure out what your family values are, your food family values are, and then get on the same page.
What are yours?
Okay. So, I mean, it's basically like we'll control what's in our home. I'm in charge of what's in our home. If we go out, then we're going to, choose a restaurant if we can, that's going to serve like local food if possible. But if we're on a road trip and we have to swing through Chick-fil-A, then we're doing it. And, we prioritize eating real food and minimal ingredients as much as possible. We prioritize eating meat that's been raised humanely and as it should be in nature. Like we actually raise a lot of our own meat. So that's easier for us. We prioritize eating as nutrient densely as possible. We're trying to eat as much of the whole animal as we can. And that includes organ meats and things that sound really gross. And then we have a couple of red flag ingredients that we try to avoid. So those are things like food dyes and high fructose corn syrup and seed oils and things like that. So that also means that we sat down and we looked at our budget and said, okay, you know, I'm willing to spend this much extra because we know that these kinds of foods are sometimes more expensive. So yeah, and actually, you know, that's a really humbling conversation to have, especially if you come to it as a mom who has done a lot of research and who has very strong opinions. And you have to be able to come to that and say, listen, I look at you as my partner. I look at you as my person who we're doing this together with, and neither one of us is going to steamroll the other. We're going to come to this together and we're going to figure this out together. And if one of us has a strong opinion about something and the other one has an opposing strong opinion about something, we're going to work it out. We're not going to be nasty to each other about it. We're going to work it out and come to a conclusion together where we both feel comfortable with the answer.
Love that. That's really good. Okay. Well, one more question, rapid fire question.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I'll have you like wrap up and tell everybody where they can find you. But do you have any go-tos for protein packed hacks for kids? That's what Cindy asked.
Protein pack hacks, like foods that you're going to give them that are full of protein.
Yeah. Or like quick ways that you get in protein on the go or while you're traveling.
Okay, sure. So eggs are top. Meat.
Boiling them?
Obviously.
Are you boiling the eggs and taking?
Yeah, for one of my kids, she'll do that.
Okay.
So if we're on the go, eggs are not really going to happen. On the go, we usually just do like meat sticks.
Good.
That's pretty much it.
Is it your meat that you're raising or do you have a breed?
No, I do buy. Yeah, I'll buy them. I'll buy either Paleo Valley chomps.
I love them both.
What is the other one? Archer?
Larissa's Kitchen, I think, has some.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember all the brands, but I mean, like, that's the super cool thing about living now. Like back when my mom was doing the crunchy thing, there were like 0 brands that you could get anywhere.
So true.
And now like we have all these options and it does take digging. You know, you do have to still be kind of vigilant about watching that they don't kind of swap the ingredients out without you noticing. But yeah, we have so many great options these days.
We do.
I'm actually really grateful for it.
Yeah, same. Well, you have been so educational. And I know that people listening to this are going to have a ton of questions still just about where they can dig in more and learn more about how they're feeding their kids and how that practically plays out. So will you tell them where they can find you on Instagram or any other resources that you have?
Sure. Okay. So my Instagram is for nutrients sake or at for nutrients sake. You can remember it because it's like, for nutrients sake.
Cute. That's cute.
And then that's my blog too, or my website is the same thing, just fornutrientsake.com. My podcast that I host with my dear friend, Christine Muldoon, is called Modern Ancestral Mamas, and you can get it pretty much wherever you find podcasts. I do want to say one more thing about the raw milk situation. If you are looking for it, you can go to rawmilk.com and they will have tons of stuff listed.
Amazing.
Different farms and stuff. Or you can find your local Weston A Price chapter leader and reach out to them and they will send you a list of local resources that have raw milk and other food, you know, like pasture-raised meats, eggs, that kind of thing.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom with us. And you guys, I like literally could talk to her for another 20 minutes with a million other questions, but I have to run out the door to carpool or else I'll be late. So yeah. I just want to challenge you guys in your home, and I'm taking the challenge myself too, to have this conversation with your spouse about what you, or, you know, if you're living with your mom or whatever your situation is, have an in-home meeting about what y'all's family food rules are. I think that's such a great takeaway for all different levels of health that you want to achieve. And I also just want to encourage you to be patient with yourself. This is a learning journey. She's been doing this for many years with many kids. And so I'm so grateful to have just sat at her feet and learned as well. So if y'all will screenshot this episode, share it on your Instagram stories, that would mean the most to us. And then also please subscribe, rate, review, tag us when you share. And then last but not least, I will link up all my kids' meal planning resources down below. I have several free kid-friendly meal plans that I can share with you guys, as well as protein hacks, tips, printables, all the things. So have a blessed Tuesday, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Welcome back, y'all, to the Marriage Corner. And I asked Eric if he would come up with some kind of like seasonal intro for us.
Well, to be fair, usually I am the one that comes up with the topics for the Marriage Corner, but been very busy. And I said, Heather, I need some help this time. And you sent a few. And so we narrowed it down. And I really like this one. And I want to talk about being grateful in our marriage, and kind of the setup for it is as Thanksgiving and the holidays and Christmas approach. Talk about the importance of expressing gratitude toward your spouse and how it impacts your relationship and family dynamics. So we just wanted to kind of go back and forth and talk about two things that we are grateful for about each other during Christmas and Thanksgiving, during that season when things can get very busy and sometimes out of balance. And I always enjoy when we can compliment each other as well, too. And that's always nice. I'm a big words of encouragement guy. So give me your first two about that. What are you grateful about me, Heather?
I think you're really going to like the first one. It's not holiday related, but it's your biceps. I love your bulging biceps.
That's not, I don't think that's where this was supposed to be going, but
no, it actually, it's not. That's not my real first answer, but it is my real first answer, but you know what I'm saying? Really the answer that I wanted to give was just telling you that I really appreciate how this is probably like not even necessarily holiday related, but how much Eric grills for our family. And I really appreciate that, I typically go to the grocery store or make our meal plan. And I don't think a lot of husbands are willing to grill or be willing to cook. And so to me, the fact that you're willing to go outside, and I even really selfishly like that because then sometimes we sneak in some quality time sitting outside. Being in Birmingham, a lot of times you can grill almost year round, right? So that's a nice little like surprise sneak in 10-minute, 15-minute outside like date quality time. And I am so grateful that you're willing to do that.
I see how it is. You're just using me for my meats.
Meats and biceps.
Grilled meats.
That's right.
Jeez.
That escalated quickly.
Well, I do appreciate that. I did see how you kind of weave that into the holidays with the season. You can grill all year round. And mine was more kind of specific. And the first thing that I thought about with this question, it was very easy. It came to me right away. I'm so thankful in, Christmas, a lot of times, the gift giving, and a lot of it is obviously about the kids, but it's also your busiest time of the year with business and, and everything that you do. It just is your busiest time. And the way you're able to balance everything, plan out the gifts for the kids, make every single day special for them, that I know they'll remember that, but also too, to find the right balance, to have quality time with our family. It always amazes me each Christmas and Thanksgiving, how you're able to balance all those things. And I was telling our friends just the other day, they were in town from Atlanta, and they were asking me about you, and they're kind of asking about how your job was going. And I kind of just reiterated that very same thing, how you're just always able to balance everything out. And I lost my train of thought there. I had something other specifically, but maybe it'll come back to me. But just the way you're able to balance everything and really make the kids feel special. And also, too, you make me feel special and a priority, even though I know it's your busiest time of the year.
Well, unfortunately, I don't really feel like I personally don't think that I do the greatest job of that during the busy season with you. Like, I specifically feel like I struggle sometimes to keep up in our marriage in November and December, but I'm really thankful that you give me grace and you always pull me back towards balance. And I definitely appreciate that. And I will say that you made me laugh because I was thinking about that meme where it always shows like the dad, the mom, and the kids on Christmas morning. And it always says something like, when dad is just as surprised as the kids are about what they're getting for Christmas that morning or something like that.
Yeah, except for the rare occasion. Well, not even the rare. There's always at least one thing I have to put together every Christmas. So, I feel like that it doesn't all the way make up for it, but there's always something, maybe multiple things. And also, too, when the gifts come out, if they have to be put together, that's what I'm doing that morning for the whole entire day. So I'm not saying it evens out, but
So the next thing that I would say is that I'm really grateful for, let's see, I said the grill. Oh, this plays into what you kind of said earlier, but I just got back from a work trip. And so I was just thinking about how grateful I am that you're such an involved dad, that although like you're not home all the time, obviously, when the kids get out of school and running them here and there. But baby, you take them to soccer practice at least 2 nights a week. You coach their soccer teams, and we'll be wrapping that up soon here as we're hurtling towards Thanksgiving. I think both of you and I are going to be thankful for a break from soccer season by that point. But I'm so grateful that when I go out of town, I have complete confidence that you're going to be able to just think on your feet and figure it out. And you're so smart, and he's a 5 on the Enneagram, y'all, and he's going to process through and figure out what to do. So he handled the homecoming tent and parade while I was gone. He handled getting the boys like checked out at weird times. And so that to me is just like, I don't even know what to say thank you enough for all those kind of things you do.
Yep. No problem. Pretty high functioning individual over here, and do the basics. No, I appreciate it. But the second thing that I'm really thankful for you during Christmas and Thanksgiving is, and I think everybody kind of realizes this when they listen to the podcast, and if they know you, they obviously know it, but it's just how much fun you are. I think about my life, and if you weren't in it, it would definitely not be as much fun. It wouldn't be as joyful. I mean, obviously you're the person, you're an extrovert, and
hold on. Ben's asking if you can have some popcorn. Yes, you can have some popcorn.
hold on. I got to open up this bag of popcorn for Ben.
Ben, you want to say hey?
Ben, what's your favorite part about Christmas and Thanksgiving? We're gonna have to think on that a little bit. He's more interested in the popcorn right now. But I was gonna say just how fun you make everything. We usually have our wine and cheese party beginning of November, which is always fun, and just all the little activities you do for the boys to make Christmas and Thanksgiving. You cook with them, and yeah, it's just so much more fun.
Make the peanut butter blossom cookies.
Yeah, cook together. And so, yeah, it's just, you make everything more fun in life. And I'm very grateful for that.
For sure. Well, I definitely appreciate that, babe. And I'm really thankful that we got to do this episode. So in the spirit of gratitude and the holidays, we really want to encourage you guys to also come up with 2 to 3 things that you can shoot to your text that you can shoot to your spouse today that you're thankful for them about if they're at work, or tell them when they get home, and maybe do this exercise as part of just your opportunity to reconnect during the busyness of the holidays. But we're really grateful for you. If you hear this and you're having a hard day, we love you, and we just hope that you feel so much gratitude in the busyness, and that kind of crowds out a little bit of the stress today. Anything else you want to say, babe?
I think that's it. I'm grateful for interruptions in the middle of podcasts. I'm grateful for being on call right now and getting paged while I'm doing this. No, I'm grateful that we were able to do this. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll talk about if we need to edit some of those things out or not in this one. All right, cool.
Yeah, we got to leave them. We'll keep it real. All right. Love you guys. Bye. Okay, friend, that's a wrap on this week's episode. If you're not already following me on Instagram, make sure to screenshot this episode, share it to your stories, and tag @Healthy by Heather Brown so I can connect with you in my DMs. It truly brings me so much joy to see how these episodes impact you. Make sure to subscribe so we can see you back here next Tuesday for our weekly show. In case you don't know, your downloads, ratings, and reviews are the actual lifeblood of this podcast, and it helps spread the word to your friends and family. So please hit the download button on this episode and leave a 5-star rating if you super loved it. And if we're really BFFs, you'll spread the happy and text this podcast link to someone who needs to hear it today for some encouragement. Scroll down to the show notes on this episode to see any and all links mentioned, freebies to fuel your health goals, prior-related episodes, and the 7-day free trial of my exclusive membership where I personally coach and cheer you on in whole health. While you're there, make sure to check out my Amazon storefront with healthy snacks, my favorite look for less workout outfits, and books and devotionals that challenge me in my faith. If you ever need to find my Amazon storefront, just Google Healthy by Heather Brown Amazon and it will come up. Have a great day, Girl Gang.